Welcome to Taste Your Magic Elite Retreats, where we go internationally around the world and work with your spiritual gifts and help you to amplify your life, your relationships, your money, your businesses, your health, your wealth, and everything that is all about you and what you are wanting to create in your life and what you have already created and how these things fit, and also get to up level. Egypt is about seeing to believe now. And one of the beautiful places we take you is Luxor, Egypt. And in this one, we're gonna play on the hot air balloons. Every time I take a group on these hot air balloon rides, it's different every time. It's a very unique experience where you get to take a break and enjoy what comes your way. Have you ever been asked to surrender into that which you are asking? Have you ever been presented to bring your dreams into reality? Have you ever been placed in a space where you get to experience what you have been wanting? Have you ever been put in a basket and told to just experience what you see around you as you soar through the skies? These hot air balloon rides create a space for us to move out of the constrictions of our everyday life and soar through the skies while somebody else is helping guide this, and you get to relax and just enjoy. Now, sometimes it's not always relaxing. Sometimes it's exhilarating and fun, but that's what it is about life and experiencing your dreams as they come forward in truth and reality. At this point, when these individuals come with me and we get to step foot into the baskets of these hot air balloons, they have done a lot of work already on themselves at this point. They've already had some clarity. We've walked the ancient ways and seen many different teachings of sacred symbols and sites and that which Egypt brings. It takes courage to surrender your control into experiencing your life. And that's what these hot air balloon rides give to people. Plus, they're just a lot of fun, and we always have a lot to talk about and memories that you just can't have in any other way other than a hot air balloon ride in Egypt, Luxor. Where the hot air balloons are is located. At times you fly over the monuments of Luxor and the temples and the sacred spaces. So while we are up in the air, many times we get to see Hatshepsut's temple, which is huge, and you'll be able to see a video of that experience. But also the Valley of the Kings, which is another one you'll be able to watch in our vault of videos on YouTube. Sometimes we soar over the Colossi of Memnon, which are two giant guardian statues. We start out taking a little boat ride to where the hot air balloons are located. Then many times we get to walk through people's homes and where they live and get to experience them. Sometimes they give us coffee as we come through and different things, but mostly we're just getting to the hot air balloons. And then you step out into this field of balloons. Some are already propped up and some of them are still laying down. It's in the early mornings because when we do these rides, our goal is to watch the sunrise in the air. When we step out into the field with all the balloons, it gets a little bit wild. This is where it's really noisy at times. You got a lot of workers and helpers that are balancing and setting the balloons and holding the baskets. And everybody finds their basket that we're supposed to go in, and I keep the groups together. They're large baskets and they can hold a lot of people. We've always been able to have our whole groups together in one. We crawl in and we set and hang on to the sides as they begin to fill the balloon with fire and hot air. So these big torches start just blowing up, and they're powerful and they're really hot. You'll feel it on you. Sometimes my necklaces have heated up a little bit. It's usually a little bit chilly in the morning, so it's kind of nice to have your own heater working for you. And as this fire heats up the inside of the balloon, the molecules spread out and the air on the inside gets less dense than the cold air on the outside, and then, as we know, heat rises. So then the balloon begins to lift, and sometimes it'll go slowly straight up, and sometimes it'll go up a little bit and then it'll bounce down a little bit, and then it'll go up a little bit and then it'll bounce down a little bit. It really is just depending on the air, depending on the driver, depending on the weight, depending on all of the different things that you actually can't control very much in the environment and the weather. Each time has been different because the balloons can't steer. So what the drivers do is they will lift and lower the balloon into currents of the wind in the atmosphere. So sometimes that current is really low and we've almost hit trees and a lot of other fun things that they do seem to make it over every time so far. And sometimes that current is really high up, and so we take off and get really high up before we can hit a current to take a tour. Our different groups, we've gone east, we've gone west, we've gone a lot of different directions because of the way that the wind takes you and the currents that way. One time, as I headed east, the current was way up in the sky, and so the balloon took us all the way up, and then we floated all the way over towards the sunrise, and it was gorgeous as it was coming up. But what was interesting is we flew over all of the fields, all of the little houses, and everywhere you would have thought would have been a great place to land. And then by the time the sun rose, which was what we pay for and what we set up is to see the sunrise, the full sunrise, we got to where we were landing in a parking lot of a little shopping place. And in that one, the workers actually had to start to pull the balloon down exceptionally fast because we can't just take up the whole area at that time. And a bunch of them were landing there. And so we were still kind of floating a little bit and landing, just hovering the ground while they were taking it down and apart before we even got out of the basket. Another time we floated up and we stayed about mid. We went up a little bit and we went down a little bit and over the road, and then we went through these areas that were undiscovered. Some of it had been discovered a little bit, and you could just see all of these tombs and temples and worshiping areas and just undiscovered Egypt land, but you could see the traces of what's underneath there. And the thing about Egypt is there's so much to discover even still now that it's just there. It's just sitting there. There's so much ancient history and monuments still undiscovered in Egypt. That's how much history is still there. And you can see that while you're floating over in the balloons. And that time we landed way out in a field by some of the monuments. And as we went through the fields, you could see all of this pottery, this old ancient pottery. And my husband and I, we collect pottery when we go different places. And they would actually just let you take the pottery out of there because they were using it for nothing. It was like trash to them almost because there was so much of it. It was incredible. And this last group of 2024, we almost didn't get to go because the winds were picking up. We had a huge windstorm the day before that was causing a dust storm almost, and they do not fly in any type of bad weather with these. So our group, we began to create our intentions. We started doing the miracle frequency. We started to tap into the divine space of creation and manifest low winds so we could go. No winds so that we could go on our hot air balloon ride in Egypt. Well, everybody was so tapped in and getting so good at their magical skills, their miracle skills of creation and the believing of it, that we ended up not having much of a breeze at all. And so this experience was we would go up and we'd go down and we would barely move across the ground because there was no currents to catch. So we stayed a lot above the fields and the farming lands, and we got to see the animals of the people. We got to touch the grass in the fields and the wheat in the fields. We even got to touch the trees as we went over the tops of them because it was so slow and the currents were kind of lower. And when we'd get up high, we'd just stay in one spot. And so would all the other balloons. Everybody's just staying in one spot as we're doing this time because our manifesting skills were on point. So that was a good lesson to, one, see and believe in your immediate manifesting skills, but also to allow yourself, once you hit that frequency and you're in that space of creation, allow the flow to happen instead of continuing with such a strong direction with it, and see what kind of comes from it. It's a surrendering process. In this one, we actually ended up coming down in a really wet field, and it was fun to watch all the workers start to come down these little dirt walk paths and try to pull our balloon over into an area that wasn't wet so we could actually get out and land and we wouldn't crush everybody's growing. And at one point, we just hovered probably 3 feet off of the ground is all. Not very far at all, just so that it would stay in a space where it's easy for them to pull it over. And that was really neat. The landings are fun because during the ride, you're in this buoyancy feeling, this peaceful state. It's a calm float. It's smooth, it's slow, it's more high and low than just going fast. And so when you come down and it actually connects with the earth and the ground and it anchors you in, it's like, oh, and you almost have these, instead of sea legs, they're like air legs, fly legs, and they'll help you out. And then we all take a nice picture with the captain. I like to bring these hot air balloon rides into our retreats in Egypt because of the deep work that we are doing, and we're traveling across the country to invest into ourselves, to invest into our learning, to see these sites that are world renowned and of 7 wonders, to see the ancient history and connect with it. And when we bring in these hot air balloons, it allows everybody to just take a pause, to experience a bliss, to go into an awe where they don't have to do anything, but it is fulfilling, where they can just smile and enjoy the refreshing aspects of life. We get in such a hurry and we get pushing so hard in our lives and we get stressed out and in our anxieties of having to do and get done and produce, that the feeling of a hot air balloon ride while you're seeing all this ancient history below you and the skies above you and the sun rising for you, it helps to put together pieces that allows you to have more peace in your life. And that's something that I want to invite all of you listening, is to find, where can you invite more peace into your life? Where can you take a pause and actually look and see what you've accomplished, where you're at, what's around you, who are in your life, what have you already created that's working? Where is that gratitude for what is already? Take a moment to laugh. Take a moment to cry. Take a moment to be excited. Take a moment to breathe in. Take a moment to see it work for you. Take a moment to witness your support around you, helping. Take a moment to float and soar in the divinity of you and your creations.